dodges on the front there. Having to get out of the saddle for a moment to get himself over that little bit of a bump in the road. These roads obviously model from real life roads, the GPX, whether you ride the road and you get the GPX off your computer, or you follow the road using the Strava mapping. You can then use those data points to put into RGT, and RGT overlays on those points of road to give you a replication of what it would be like in real life. By all accounts, given the way that people have got times off the RGT versions and times off the real life rides that they've done, comparing, that they're pretty similar. Obviously there are some deviations, but everyone seems to be pretty happy with the way that they're recreated. Another little feature that you can do if you don't get to ride these roads yourself, if you do have access to Strava, you can quite often follow one of the more famous riders that might be going all over the world, and you can download the GPX from one of their rides and recreate it. Just back with Fleming back here, he had a bit of a nightmare in one of his races in the TNT Omnium. He missed connecting his turbo trainer at a point, and didn't realise it wasn't connected and got knocked out of the race. He's just being closed in there by John By The Way. John By The Way, obviously seeing he's on camera, he's just putting in a little bit of standing effort there to catch up Fleming back. All the riders happy to have a little bit of screen time. John By The Way dressed in the resplendent founders kit there, as one of the founders of RGT. He's wearing the particular kit. You can choose from any one of a number of kits to give your avatar individuality, and you'll notice through the race here that some of the riders are in the same kit. They're quite often in the same team. Got Contant here from Pedalers, and you've got Reed a little bit further down the road, both in the bright orange Netherlands kit. They're in the same team there. So there's a little bit of tight grouping there from Contant, Krajewski and Marshall. Don't know whether they're consciously doing it, working together there to ease the pain on each other, or whether it's just that you can't quite break away. You just look in the top left hand corner there, you can see that Marshall momentarily was saving 1 watt off the wheel of Krajewski. At these elevations, at these gradients of 15%, and at these speeds, they're only doing 10.3 kilometers per hour. You don't really get much drafting advantage. Drafting tends to kick in at around about 15 kilometers per hour, or on the flatter slopes, so you get a little bit more of a drafting advantage. Back with Anderson here in the drift kit. I'm gonna stab it's pronounced Hep Anderson there. He's pushing out 282 watts, going up to nearly 300 there. There's a cadence of 60. So the preferred cadence is generally thought to be around about 90 for a road rider, but often that drops as you're on the slopes. Just the riding style works better for the pushing out the bigger powers to get you up those hills at around about a 70, I'd say, for most of the people on the hills. Mark Rowbottom, Rasio Racing, he's up near the top of the individuals, and obviously his team's there doing well in the team standings. Speed's just lifting now as the gradients are reducing a little bit. See, he's pushing, his heart rate's going up to 170 there. And Joey Shepherd's just a little bit further back from down the road here, 240 watts there, fluctuating a little bit as he's standing out in the saddle. You do see the avatar standing out of the saddle now. It does appear for myself personally to be quite an accurate representation of the times when I personally stand out of the saddle. My avatar seems to be able to pick up on the differences in the power application and accurately replicate when I'm standing. Nick Greenhalgh's power bar's gone green there. Don't know whether he's waiting there for Joey Shepherd just to catch him, perhaps, so the two of them can work together and catch up with some of these riders that are in front of them. Sometimes it can be a much better plan to ease slightly and pick up a strong rider and work together as a little pair than try and force your way all the way through. Back with Jonathan Stevens in 11th position here. Jonathan Stevens, I'm not sure I've seen him in the other events of the Ikigai series. And you can just take part in one event, you don't have to take part in all of them by any means. And everyone's welcome to race on RGT. It's a very welcoming community. Whether you're going to be in the top 10 or you're going to be in the bottom 10, get on, try it out. It's a good way of trying out different courses and magic roads as well, taking parts in the races. Wesley van Kronberg, that's another name I don't think I've spotted before. So a couple of new riders to tonight's event. 293 watts he's pushing out there. He's just cranked it up to 310. See the gradients increased again, and they've just dropped the speed down a little bit. Timo Achenbach, 290 watts. Just catching there one of the little features in RGT on the avatars. If you look at the handlebars, every now and again you see the fingers reach out and they just flick the gears as the rider's changing gear as the pace on the screen changes. And Jez Reed here, the pedalers, his teammate's gone a little bit further down the road. Oh, you just saw him flicking the gear there. And is it on cue? He's done it again. 237 watts he's pushing out there. And Jan Dekker, I think Jan Dekker was the overall winner last night at the Omnium event. He did very well, some very well-timed sprints, and just used his power efficiently during those races. I have a feeling that Jan was a bit more experienced with the ride format than some of the other riders were. Rasio Racing rider there, he's got quite a high heart rate as he's going up here. Dan Connolly. I think Dan Connolly frequently takes part in the Mountain Goat series. He also runs his own series on RGT, which is the NorCal series, the Northern Californian series. Hits another time zone point for riders over in the Americas. Is it the Americas? Over in the USA. He's hitting 276 watts there, heart rate 170. And he's resplendent in his herd kit there. Quite a few herd riders on RGT. Look back with Jim Ogilvy here. OTR rider. They've got their own kit and game, which he's wearing. 283 watts. Jim Ogilvy's a good rider. I think we'll see some pace out of him as this ride flattens out, as the course flattens out. Back with Ho now. 18th position. Keld Ho. 321 watts. Just putting a little bit of power here. A rider dangling off just in front of you can be tremendous inspiration to get you to put in a few more watts. Back at the front of the race here, Hodges' lead has been closed down by Hederdam here. I think Hederdam is trying to get up to Hodges as we're going to be cresting this climb shortly. And I think he's conscious of the fact that he wants to be up with the front rider, at least they can work together as a pair. But seeing how Hederdam rode for the time trial, I think he might just be riding this at consistent power and just have timed it, paced it a little bit better than Hodges has. A little bit further down the road, we've got Samuts and Wouter there, riding together as a pair. Samuts missed out on a couple of the events. I think he's out of the individual rankings. Wouter is still in the ranking here. Got some magnificent power, the pair of these riders, and if they can link up with this group in front of them before they go over the top, then I think we'll see a good chase group from this little group of 5. 306 watts there. Only 10 kilometers per hour though. You can see how steep these gradients are, those wattages, and it's just slowing these riders down. Sama 315 watts, just keeping in contact with place there. Sam at lower gear, spinning a higher cadence, just taking it easy on his legs. Again, with the riders' avatars, if you've got the cadence sensor connected, you can see with the way the avatars are moving, that's reflective of the cadence of the actual rider themselves. Henrik Simonsen, back in 22nd place, 296 watts. Heart rate of 158. For myself personally, that's quite an achievable heart rate. I could go for quite a long time. Fran Hayes, .300 watts there. It's good power. These riders have been carrying on these sorts of power since the base of the climb to maintain the positions that they are in the grouping. Kev Fernshaw, 240 watts there, but still maintaining his placing, so he's, you know, probably a lighter rider than some of the guys that are around him there with the bigger powers. Ramos, Daniel Ramos, 287 watts, 299 there. Heart rate's a little higher than the guys in front of him. You can see his power bar is red, and those power bars indicate how much over FTP you're doing. Red means that you're over FTP, and it's expected you'll be able to maintain a red power for 10 to 20 minutes. The amber is above FTP as well. It's expected you'll be able to achieve that for around about an hour. Sorry, yellow's FTP, expect you to be able to achieve that for an hour. Jesper Vistool, he's 240 watts there. Mike's just asking there, who are people picking for the win? I personally, looking at the way things are panning out at the moment, would probably go for Hidadam, seeing the way he TT'd the other day and the fact that he's already clear on this hilly section. I think he might go over the top and clean it straight the way through. He's gone from a long way back, but you know, if you've got it in the legs, that's something you can do. Anybody else want to shout up? We'll take your messages through and see if you can pick the winner. We've got a message come through from Falk there, and he's saying it's so easy to set out too hard, especially on a court like this. You really got to know yourself to pace this one right. I think you're absolutely right there, Falk. I quite often try and follow too strong a rider, given a bit of enthusiasm on that rocket start that we usually have at the beginning. I try and stay with the front group, and I burn too many matches. Quite often when I hold myself in reserve and just tempo the first section of the race, the first kilometre, get the legs warm, and I can find that I warm up into the race, and some of the riders that have gone off earlier than me, I can lap them, I can pick them up as back markers and move forward. Peter Austin, just followed by Brass there. Austin's pushing out 320 watts there. Again, these are quite low speeds. The elevation is killing the speed for these power efforts. Brask there, I don't know, that was a poor gear change from Brask. He did just speed up coming up to the wheel, but I just saw him catch up to Austin's wheel then, and all of a sudden he dropped on power. So I think possibly that was an unfortunate gear change for Brask. Been racing well this series. Alexander Ezrat's back in 30th position, just 215 watts. I think Ezrat's is another new rider to this series. I don't think he's taken part in any of the events so far, but he's quite well paced there. He's got Dimitri Roz and Paul Pidel just on his wheel. Dimitri Roz putting an effort there, 350 watts just to pass Ezrat's there. See if Ezra sees them coming past and just takes them as a pace marker. Paul Padell's putting out 360 watts there. Ezra's not going too crazy, just responding to that, and he's staying in on the wheel there. Back with Jay Trevor. You can just see the gaps on the road, how this hill climb is really opening up this race. Got Fleming back there, just behind him, and Cosmo behind him. Jimmy Trevor is 250 watts there or thereabouts. Cadence of 80. Fleming back, just looking like he's taking it very easy here. He's in his blue power band, which means that he's quite low down on his power, or his achievable power. He's 230 watts there he's pushing out. As I say, Fleming didn't have a great day yesterday on the TNT Omnium, and he looks like he's just taking it easy at the moment. Don't know whether he's perhaps carrying an injury through into this race, or whether he's not keen on the climbing. He's just decided to lay off the power a little bit. We've got Rod Costa here and Jay Smith. It's a little battle between themselves. Costa not showing any heart rate there, but Jeff Smith, another rider without a heart rate monitor. It's hard to gauge just how much effort they're putting in without seeing the heart rate. It's been mentioned in the other streams before, if you are getting slightly serious about your virtual racing, then buying a heart rate monitor and using it within the race is a good idea. It just lets people see that the effort you're putting in the wattage is reflective of how your heart rate behaves. Heart rate is a very individual thing. Paul Evans here is putting out 230 watts at a heart rate of 125. You know, some other riders might be doing 170 at that same, but it does reflect as the power changes. You can see the heart rate changes. Just getting Hodges here, and he's cresting this hill now, and Hederdam's dropped back a little bit from him. Don't know whether we missed a little bit of the front of the race here. It's hard to see whether Hederdam had a technical at all there, or whether Hodges has put the power in and just pulled away from him. We'll see now how this pans out as they're just coming over the top here. There's a little bit of a softer gradient, and then it starts into a strong descent. You can see Hodges there, his power bar's dropping down as he's going into the descent. Just keeping his legs spinning into the corner. Now the wise money has you putting on a little bit of a sprint effort as you're coming out of these corners. RGT auto brakes you on the sharper corners, so there's not much point in pedaling within them, but on the way out of them, to get yourself back up to a descending speed, it's worthwhile just putting in a sprint effort. Hederdam powering all the way down here. He wants to get back onto Hodges' wheel. And you can see there, we've got the view into the distance. We can't see Hodges. He's got onto that descent just in time, and it's flown away. It's very dispiriting as a challenging, a chasing rider to not be able to see the rider in front of you. Just saw for a second then the gap was 170 meters. Generally around about 150 you can just about see the rider in front of you. It's out to 205 meters now. Hederdam's got no chance of seeing him. Hodges easing off on the corner there and then just sprinting as he comes back, getting back up to descending speed. Look, sprint there, he's under the halfway marker. Always a fantastic point in any race to see that. And Hederdam there, coming through, and he's under the halfway marker there. I think that was around about 8 seconds there, the gapping. Back with Askew, the third rider on the road here, he's also onto this descent. Got no riders coming over together at the moment though. These might be the first pair coming over to work as a team. Krajowski and Anderson. We'll see whether they decide to work together or whether they're trying to beat each other. Anderson there putting in the effort. Krajowski powering up, to chase him over the top. Anderson's gone into that very bright blue, very bright red section, which is only achievable for about 10 to 20 seconds, high sprint pace. And he's distanced Krajewski, and that might be a foolish move there by Anderson, because he can certainly work together better as a pair, powering down these descents, and it's a good descent to get some recovery and to work together to encroach upon the leaders there. I'm not sure whether Anderson's going to be able to make any difference on third position there as a solo rider. So Krajewski there pushing on, and he's just looks like he's winding here. He's not pushing power on as he's coming through the corners. And we can see Krajewski's power bar underneath his name there, comparing it with Hep Anderson just underneath. But we've got content there come through Krajewski, and we'll see if these two riders now work together. See if they have a bit of an informal agreement on the road. Hep Anderson still not putting much power efforts in it there. And you see his poundum's gone red as he was auto braked around the corner there. Now I think we're just coming down to the bottom of the descent there. Was that a glimpse of Heiderdam in the background? It is. Just behind Hodges there we can see Heiderdam. And he must have brought the gap down on that descent. Got it down to 90 metres. That's some hard riding there. So Falk Levian there, he's commenting it. Hodges looks like a bit of a lighter rider. Heiderdam may catch him on the flat, but I think Hodges should have the advantage on the final. Well, this will give Heiderdam extra matches, seeing Hodges there, and seeing how on the previous climb Heiderdam did catch Hodges and overturn him. I think he might just catch Hodges now and work with him up until that final climb and overturn him. This is going to be a really interesting ride to watch. We don't look like we've got a peloton forming behind these two lead riders. It's looking like it is going to be one of these two that goes to the finish for me. I know I'm calling it quite early with 6.6 kilometres to go and quite a bit of climbing left, but yeah, that's what I'm putting in. Just looking back a bit further down the road here, we've got Kent and Gel there, and we've got Hugard. Hugard there, a bit further back, he's in 43rd position here. If I remember rightly, he did quite well. He wasn't up there winning in the Omnium events, but I seem to remember he did fairly well. In 44th position, just behind him there, we've got Hock again. I'm not sure if Hugard and Hock are in the same team there. They're in the same kit, so they may be working together. Heiderdam closing down on Hodges rapidly here. Hodges has eased up. I don't know whether he's seeing the danger from Heiderdam closing in and just decided to let Heiderdam fly through and sit on his wheel. But Hodges has definitely eased up there. Heiderdam back on his orange and yellow power bars. Heiderdam rolling through on Hodges and taking the lead of this race. Now, wait to see now. Heiderdam's going red on his power. He's trying to power away from Hodges here. Very difficult to do. To come just by the side of a rider like that and just try and ride off the front. When the draft kicks in, it's almost impossible. If you want to pass a rider, you need to come up on them and come up on them hard and break that draft immediately. I think Heiderdam has just misjudged that there. He's letting Hodges sit in. Hodges is down in his pale blue bars, barely putting in any power there. Hi Heiderdam. Hodges down in his pale blue bars there, barely putting in any power, and he rolls through. I'm not privy to the in-game chat, so I'm not sure there whether Heiderdam and Hodges just had a chat and said we should work together to go to the final climb. That might have been Heiderdam's wave, might not have been at us, it might be at Hodges an indication for it was his turn to pull through. As Hodges did roll to the front there and he's putting in a little bit of an effort. I think Heiderdam might find that it's not quite enough though. He comes through again. Hodges 240 watts there, and heater dammed power bars gone red. Heater down would be up in 400 watts there. And back on the climb there with position 52 or 50. Now we're at D Island there. They're still on the climb, just coming up to the crest there. And these would be riders. Jorg Rolden there. Jorg's a regular on RGT. Took part in the TNT event last night. And I'm sure these guys been a little bit longer on these climbs than the riders in the lead. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to seeing the crest there and getting over the top. Hodges on the front there, 300 watts. Heated Am's just driven up and into his draft and past him. And these two riders at the front now seem to have come to an agreement to be working together. Adkins, 47th position on the road there. We've got Rob Gill, the creator and curator of these events. Rob Gill's great at publicising the Mountain Goats events. More often than not does a little review of the event and gives a little shout out to all the riders and mentions the course for the next week. It's always great to know where you're going, what pain you've got left in store for you. Mortier, looking like he's putting in some good power there. I think he's just crested the climb, Mortier. Hugard back in 43rd position there. I thought they'd come to the crest there, but they were just on a little flat intermediate section in this climb. They've still got a while to go, these riders, before they get to the top. So they've got Hock, De Gel and Hugard here, little group together. So as I was saying before, a group descends much faster. It'd be wise to ride together with a couple of riders and get to the crest together. You will descend much faster and probably catch up on groups. Well, catch up on individuals that have decided to break free of their group and go over the top individually. Only 3.3 kilometers left to go for the lead riders here, but we do come into a climb very shortly. And that will be some punishing elevations. We were mostly red and orange in this climb. Askew, he's got 580 meters before he sees the lead rider, but he is 1.1 kilometers clear of the next rider on the road. So I think Askew is probably secure in his 3rd position place here, but unlikely to achieve a higher finishing spot. Rowbottom, Marshall here, working together as a pair. Another message through from Falt Levian there. He's just stating that Hodges is a good climber. I mean, we've seen that on the first hill, but Heated is a strong rider, and I think his overall strength, for me, Heated will overturn Hodges on this last climb. Not got long left to find out though. Hock in 41st position there. He's looking like he's just dropped the other two riders he was working with. I think it was Hugard he was with on the road before, and De Gel, yeah, he's just pushing in the effort here, and he's breaking free of them. Hugard and Gel staying in yellow power bars. They're being a little bit more conservative with the power, but Hock's there, he's going into the deep red and the bright red, which are the very high levels above your FTP, not very sustainable. As we say that, we move back to Hodges and Heated there, and they are both in deep red. So that those power bars, when they're in deep red, is thought you'd be able to sustain that for around about 20 minutes. Hodges easing. I think these two riders are just beginning that process of cat and mouse, looking at each other, Neither of them really wanting to take the front and pull the other through. Hodges at 325 watts. Fairly low cadence there at 76. Heart rate's only at 162, which gives an indication that he's probably got quite a bit more to give there. And the speeds on these flatter sections much higher, at 20 kilometers per hour. Casper Heiderdam coming through at 370 watts. He's up that to 430 there as he takes the front of the race. Only 1.6 kilometers to go. A little small break opening there. You just wonder whether on one of these changeovers one of the riders is going to continue applying the power and just break the will of the other rider. Hodges using the draft, just being conservative there and bringing himself back to the wheel of Heiderdam. We've got Falk there saying it's going to be a thriller. Hodges has to make the difference before it flattens out if he wants to take it and then hang on for dear life. Yeah, we're going to have a little flat section before the finish here on this race. A little sprinting section. But I think this race is going to be won before we get to there. I think these riders are going to split themselves up, the two lead riders. Nice. Anders Brathen Osterson, I think. Will we see the sprint from the groups behind Heiderdam and Hodges? We try and stay on for as long as we can to cover as many of the riders coming in. There are often interesting battles behind the two lead riders or the lead peloton, so we do try and cover as many of the riders as we can. We can't always stay live until the close of the race, but often there's more interesting battles going on in the back of the race than there is in the front. Just see Heiderdam going under the Lantern Rouge there, and he's just pulled away from Hodges. Hodges there, I think that's about 4 seconds on the road. Heiderdam using his power to break away on this slightly lower gradient section. You see Heiderdam's avatar standing up out in the saddle there. Hodges' power bar is going green. I think Hodges has possibly decided to just roll it home here. He's still putting out good power, but he's not putting out enough power to pick up Heiderdam again. Heiderdam just got a little bit erratic there, perhaps some bad gear changes. His power dropped down to only 1 watt per kilogram there, and it's bounced back up to 5.6. I think that might have been just as he swapped gears there, perhaps jumped a cog or two. The gradient's changing quite rapidly at these speeds. He's up at 5.7, going to 6.2. Hodges there, 280 watts, 4.2 watts per kilogram. And it's a great power output, but it's not comparable to Heiderdam at this moment in the race. And Heiderdam's just pulling away. He's got a 110 meter gap. The gradient's softening a little bit for Heiderdam. You'll see that gap open up now as Heiderdam hits the lower gradients, the flat, and his speed increases. He's only got 280 meters left of this race. Failing something major, I think it's a certainty that Heiderdam's going to get this. 180 meters. And we should just be able to see the finishing line coming into view as we go around this long sweeping bend. Heiderdam power bar's green, he knows he's got it won, zips up the jersey, sits up on the bike, salutes the crowd, and Heiderdam comes over victorious. Hodges just rolling it home now, 3.6 watts per kilogram. I say he's only rolling it home, I mean that's a great power output, but it's easy for Hodges. You can see by his power bar there, it's pale blue, that's a power he's able to sustain all day long. And Fat Levian giving the congratulations there for Heiderdam. It's super impressive. I totally agree. He timed it all well. He did a really good race there, Heiderdam. As Hodges comes in to get a well-deserved second place, he'd led from early on in this race. Heiderdam did a very well-powered, very well-timed attack and brought himself up to him and eventually overhauled him. and they work together for a good section of the race. Askew coming in on 3rd position. He's clear of his 4th place man, Anderson. He's done a really great ride there. Should be proud of himself to get on the podium. And Anderson, I think Anderson came from a bit further back in the field here. Anderson could possibly have worked with Krajewski earlier on as they went over and descended. He may have had enough speed with Krajewski working together to have reeled in Anderson, but Anderson decided to go it low and put the car down before they crested the main climb and left Krajewski. Anderson coming in there, it was around about 1 kilometre behind Askew. 5.3 watts per kilogram. He's got Krajewski closing in on him though. Got Marshall and Rowbottom there coming through under the 1 kilometre marker. Rowbottom, Rasio Racing, and then just behind him we've got Jan Dekker and Joris Shepherd and Nick Greenhouse, all Rasio Racing. Big team block there, all working together to get each other in a good position on this race. It is something that you see on RGT Racing. You see teams working together, helping each other get to good positions. I think we've got Alex Plager and James Vickers absent from this team tonight, but you've got a lot of power in the other riders that are there on the road tonight as we come under the Flamridge. 1 kilometre left to go. Anderson, we've got Krajewski just 120 metres behind him. Krajewski, Rasio Racing, I don't know whether he'll be able to open up a long sprint up. It's too late for him. I think he could have possibly just overhauled Anderson if he'd had a little bit more in the legs, but Anderson just worked well together there. Contant pushing hard. Long sprint, he's overcome Krajewski. Can Krajewski get in his wheel? He's split the group and he's gone through. Marshall in 7th position here. He's got 150 metres on the next rider on the road. He's got Rowbottom just behind him. So I think he is going to come through in 7th position. And Rowbottom, Rasio Racing there, coming in 8th. Jan Dekker just in his wheel. I think Marshall has been riding well all the way through this road. He's done quite a lot of this riding solo. Very difficult to ride solo. It's very soul destroying. He's wearing a TBR top there, the big ring top, coming through in 7th. The time 48 minutes 37. Rowbottom, Dekker there, just opened up the power for a second. Oh, shall we see a sprint from the Rasio Racing guys here? See which one of those. Dekker's opened up a sprint earlier there on Rowbottom. Maybe a bit of inter-team rivalry to take 8th position. Or is Rowbottom giving it to him to push the rankings up a little bit for Dekker there? Rowbottom totally shut off the power here. He's got Greenhouse in his wheel. I wonder whether they were trying to do a bit of team tactics there with a Greenhouse and Shepherd trying to improve their power, their positions on the road. And Greenhouse and Shepherd's opening up sprints on this last bend. Greenhouse breaking free of Shepherd's there, coming in 10th position. Sprinting at 8 watts per kilogram there. By no means is that Greenhouse's biggest sprint. So, open up 12, 13 watts per kilogram. Stevens back on the road here in 12th position. And behind him got Ackenbach. We've still got a little bit of the climb to do. There's still perhaps a little bit of a battle between these two that could be had. Ackenbach is keeping that distance at around about 30 metres, but Stevens is putting some power down on the road now to make sure that Ackenbach doesn't have a chance of coming back to him. He's up at 6 watts per kilogram there, 12th position, opening up a little bit more of a lead there, giving himself a little bit more breathing space. Stevens wanting to keep hold of that. 12th position on the road, back with Collins. It's followed by Clace and Jay Reid. I think Collins needs to worry here a little bit. Wouter Clace is a strong rider. I think this close to the finish, Wouter Clace might be putting an effort to overhaul him. Stevens seeing the finish line in sight, 90 metres left to go. Empties everything left on the road, and he's opened up there 100 metres from what was only a 30 metre gap on Ackenbach, and Ackenbach comes in, rolls it home, 220 metres clear of the next rider on the road. He knows he's got this position of 13 safe. Collins and Wouter Clace there, 22 metres back to Clace, and Clace can maintain this power for a long time. He's coming up on the wheel of Collins here, and I think he's going to get him at the finish line. He's going to just slip into that draft, pass him, and continue applying this power until he goes over the line. And Collins not quite able to return the favour. Collins dropped back into 15th position there. Reid coming through, pedalised rider, 3 and 16th. He's clear of the next rider on the road, Samet. Samet's putting in a little bit of an effort there to keep a distance from Dan Connolly. Dan Connolly at 4.3 watts per kilogram there. And comfortably in 18th position. Kronberg, 3 watts per kilogram in this finishing section. 19th position. 200 metres over Hock on the back on the road, and behind Hock we've got Ogilvy. Mike's saying that there's a really interesting dynamic on this course. I agree, Mike. Well, I feel that the initial climb just splintered everybody. It wasn't a peloton formed as I kind of thought there might have been, as we went crested over that main climb. So there wasn't that big chase group that I was expecting to happen. Hock coming over in 20th position now with a nice sprint over the line, 5 watts per kilogram there. We've got Fran Hayes and James Ogilvy back on the road there. Not much between them. Ogilvy's putting in an effort here to get onto Fran Hayes' wheel. Fran's seeing him put a little bit of power down. Ogilvy is just going to be riding his wheel now. It's going to be a sprint between these two riders. Ogilvy opens up early. He dropped Fran Hayes, and I don't think Fran Hayes has realised how close this line is. There's only 130 metres left to go. Ogilvy at 6.7 watts per kilogram. Fran has just shut it off. He's seen that Ogilvy is gone into the wind, and he's realised that he's not got a chance of catching him back up there. Fran Hayes coming in 22nd place. Unfortunate there to lose 21st, but James Ogilvy, he rode that well, that last sprint section. Caught him before the corner and overturned him in the sprint. Austin, 85 metres in front of Fernshaw there. I think Austin's comfortable his 23rd position. I don't think Fernshaw's going to catch him at this distance. And Fernshaw clear of John By the Way on the road there as well. So Austin finishing with a good sprint, emptying it all on the road there. And Fernshaw using the last of his power to secure 24th position. John By the Way passing Brask there. Brask not too happy about that. He's just put a little bit of an effort in there and make sure that he doesn't let John get away on the road. This could be an interesting little sprint between these two. My money's on Brask for this, although I did see Brask taking it easy earlier on in this race. I wondered whether he was carrying a little bit of an injury. He was just well, wasn't pootling along, but he was taking it easy. Got John by the way here at 260 watts. The pair of them looking at each other, playing cat and mouse. 120 metres to the line. Who's going to open up the sprint first and lead the other out? That's John by the way, opening his sprint there. Hitting up at 500 watts, and Brask is dropped. Brask coming back at the line. Is Brask going to take it? Yeah, he has. Brask timed that to perfection. Superior power in the last few seconds of the race, and he just managed to overhaul John by the way, who'd gone a little bit earlier on his sprint. Simonson coming through clear there on Ramos. 50 metre gap. 27th position. Ramos, 3.3 watts per kilogram. Rolling over the line for 28th. In 29th we've got Vustul. He's 240 metres clear of Pudel and Trevor back on the road there. And he's going to come through comfortably in 29th position there. Only 180 metres, but it looks like the race behind is hotting up between Trevor and Pudel there. See both their power bars going red, and it looks like Pudel has just opened up gap on Trevor there. Yeah, Pudel's opened a gap there. Vistul going through there. 29th position, comfortably clear of Pudel. Pudel's opened up on Trevor. They were together a few seconds ago. He's opened up a 67 metre gap there. Just applying a little bit of power and pulling away. Trevor wasn't able to hold his wheel and enjoy the draft. 80 metre gap now. Pudel's keeping that power on as he gets to the line. 4.8 watts per kilogram. Trevor's opened up a sprint there as well. 100 metres to go. But he's seeing position 31. Fall out of his grasp as he empties the tank. Ezret's coming over the 270 metres left to go now for Ezret's. Alexander Ezret's, new name for me on RGT. I've not seen this rider before. Great to see more and more riders joining in the events. .32 position. He has been, looking back, he has been quite busy. He's been doing quite a few of the events on RGT, and he's done Mountain Goats at the 9th position on Mountain Goats before. And he's also just recently done the ride with Tissot Tour de France edition, where he's ranked 35th. So he's got two. We're just back with Dimitri Roz there. Ezret's went over in 32nd. Dimitri Roz coming up on the line, 180 metres left to go. 33rd position. Great riding. It's been a challenging course tonight. Anything with a hill in it's challenging for me. These riders, several of them are performing in all of the events of the series. Skovskar is here now. He's been performing in the TNT last night. Fatigue does build up in your legs when you're in competitive races night after night. And you can see riders who would normally perform very well in a race like this just struggling a little bit as the nights of racing builds up. Fleming back here. 2.6 watts per kilogram. See by the pale blue bar that this is a comfortable effort for him. Just rounding up the race in 35th position. I think we're just going to see Brandy and Kent over the line here before we have to close the coverage on the race. Brandy in 36th and Kent just behind him. It's going to be interesting to see these two riders. We've got 70 metres to the line. Kent's opening up his final sprint. Brandy, will he get back in the draft? Brandy's coming back in, but it looks like Kent just took that on the line. Oh no, it went to Brandy. Brandy managed to squeeze back on the line. That was very tight photo finish there. Only milliseconds between them. we're going to see a few more riders go through here now. Pedesy there going through in a Hugard. Great to see these riders performing in all these events. Hugard 39th position here. Hugard power's turning red here as he puts the power down for these final 370 meters. And now we can see the results on the screen. We got Casper Hededam in first position for the ECKD team. James Hodges in second. It was close fought by those two riders for a lot of this race, but in the end there was quite a gap in between them of 32 seconds. And you saw that Hodges there was putting out the higher watts per kilogram, but as is quite often the case on RGT, it's where you use those watts most efficiently that can make the difference. Miles Askew coming in third, time of 45 minutes 23. So we just see Hugard cross the line there in 1 minute and 1 hour and 1 minute. Pep Anderson 47 minutes 18. And Christoph Contant from the Pedalairs team 47 minutes and 30. And then Andrzej Kajowski, the first of the Rasio Racing guys, coming over in 47 minutes 30. We just see Hock there crossing the line, 40th position in 1 hour, 1 minute. Great time by these riders. Lee Marshall, 48 minutes and 37. And Jan Decker, another the Rasio Racing guys, 49 minutes and 4 seconds. Mark Rowbottom, Rasio Racing, 49 minutes and 13. And Nick Greenhouse, yet another Rasio Racing guy. That team worked together there to get 4 of their riders into the top 10. A little bit of distance in between the riders tonight. There's up to 5 minutes and 12 seconds between the top 10. We've had much closer finishes in the races of the series so far, but this has been probably the Queen stage with this big mountain in the middle of it. We've got Gel here coming over in 41st position. My apologies, 100 meters left. 145 meters of climbing in his legs. And he's going through with a gap of 237 meters over Mortier, the next ride on the road. Mortier, your Roldan coming through with a last little bit of pace there. Mortier didn't see him quick enough. He's jumping on his wheel, getting that draft, and we'll see whether he can overhaul your Roldan at the line. But they've both got to be wary of Rob Gill coming up fast here. Rob Gill coming up on your Roldan and Mortier. 90 meters left to the line. Will Rob Gill get in the draft and overhaul a pair of them? It looks like he's timed it well here, Rob Gill. He's coming through. On the line is Rob Gill, Mortier and Roldan. Rob Gill, perfectly timed attack there on that last bit of flat before the finish line. And your Roldan and Mortier didn't see the danger from Rob Gill. They weren't using the look back feature there. They were both battling each other, and Rob Gill came through. Back with Dolce here. Dolce, female avatar. I think this might be the only lady rider that we've seen on the Ikigai series so far. The ladies are much undersubscribed. Any ladies are welcome to take part in the races. They're not separated by male and female. You can take part in any race. There are sometimes you see an M like behind LMD's name there, and you do see a W occasionally in brackets behind some of the riders' names. That's because there's mixed fields, and occasionally in races there is separate classifications for women and male riders that everybody can ride together but have a race within a race. Mike listed there saying it's great to see so much of the field being covered too. It's great to see so many people riding of differing abilities. It's a pleasure to cover so many of these riders as they're putting a lot of effort in to take part in these events. There's no reason why we should just cover the first 1 to 10 riders when all these riders have made the effort to get out, get on the road and put the effort in. We're back with 46th and 47th position here on the road. But the gradient 5.6 there. We were up at 6.6 a moment ago, and it's just leveling out on the road here now. You see the speed increasing as that road levels out, down at 3 on the gradient. And the flatter section going through here, well, slightly flatter section. The amber in the route denoting the gradients of around about 3 to 5, and then going more orange and into the red as the gradients go through 5%, 6%, all the way up to occasionally you can see 25% on the road. Felt Levian just mentioned that it's a brilliant race by everyone and a real killer of a course. I'm glad I wasn't racing it tonight. That first section would have really done me in. So we just see these last two riders up here. Got 600 meters left to go. As I mentioned before, some of the riders, some of the viewers have only joined us partway through the broadcast. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you could like and follow the ZMS live stream page. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you can like and subscribe. There is also a notification button. If you hit that notification, you'll hear when we go live and be able to catch up with any racing that we're covering. Not just covering RGT and the Ikigai series, we're covering lots of other racing around the platform, the whole virtual cycling world. And it's great to see that we've got viewers, great to see the interaction on the screen. Get on the Facebook, send us a message, we'll give you a shout out, and we'll mention your comments on screen. It's great to see the interaction. We're also pushing to ESTV.co. That's ESTV.co, which is an online streaming platform. You can access it through a number of streaming boxes, a number of streaming services like Hula, and you can also catch them up on the web through YouTube. They don't just cover virtual cycling, they do a whole raft of different virtual events. Yeah, we've got Ikigai, more racing tomorrow, and I think we're going to have to got Nicky Hugar there, who rode the event tonight, shouting up a message for us. He's holy 1 hour in hell, thanks for keeping me going. He's at 93 kilograms, so yeah, if you're a heavier rider, these races do really punish you. Heavier rider, nice to have a little bit of flatter sections to make use of your raw watts rather than the watts per kilogram. Antoine Renault there with great coverage and commentaries as always. Thanks for your work. It's great to hear from you, Antoine. Glad that we've got people out there watching what we do. Gives us more inspiration to keep putting out the good coverage. Gives more inspiration for Damon to come up with new layouts, keep everything interesting for those that are watching. And unfortunately, that's the end of our time for tonight. We're going to have to cut to the live results. Sorry for those riders that we didn't quite get to follow all the way over the finish line. Do appreciate you taking part. We are limited some days in how long we can cover for, and some of these races with the hill sections do carry on a little bit longer than we can cover the full race for. But thanks very much for taking part. So just go over the results there. We've got Casper Hiededam in first place, James Hodges coming in second, and Miles Askew in third position. That's our podium places, gold, silver and bronze tonight for this Olympics week, the Ikigai series. And then following those we've got Hep Anderson, Christoph Contant, Andrei Kajowski, Lee Marshall, Jan Decker, Mark Rowbottom and Nick Greenhalgh. The Rasio Racing guys there putting 4 into the top 10, which will no doubt push them way up in the team rankings. It's going to take a massive effort by any of the other teams taking part to overhaul that. I didn't see any dirt riders in the race tonight. We've had Mike Lister taking part frequently for the dirt riders, and we've also had Der Seb and Sebastian, I've forgotten his surname now, taking part for the dirt riders. So I think this has harmed their chances in the team standings. Casper Hiededam with the ECKD win will no doubt push him up, and Christoph Contant with the 5th place for the pedalers team will have done their team standings quite well there tonight with the omission of the dirt races. So great having all you guys on board. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for another Ikigai races. And I've been Riley Harvey for Virtual Cycling News. The stream's been provided by ZMS Livestream. So give us some love, give us some comments on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll keep in touch. See you next time.